The inquiry into the Hazelwood coal mine fire will be reopened following community fears it may have led to deaths in the Latrobe Valley. Residents have welcomed the move but say their concerns have been ignored for too long. Dougal Beattie has the story.
For 22 years, Kiri-Anne Clissold and Harry McCormack were happily married. But in September last year, her 49-year-old husband unexpectedly passed away, suffering an aneurysm.
It's his birthday on Sunday, so it's going to be a bit tough. And I think someone's got to answer for it.
Kiri-Anne claims Harry's death, like many others in the region, was caused by the effects of last February's Hazelwood mine fire.
He was violently ill. The headaches were extreme.
For 45 days, smoke from the brown coal fire blanketed the towns in the Latrobe Valley.
We need guarantees that these mines and any other big industry around in Latrobe Valley are going to look after our health.
Today, Daniel Andrews announced the inquiry would be reopened after it was completed in September, this time taking into account mortality rates and illnesses.
The people of Morwell have been through a lot of pain, a lot of suffering. They need to be confident that we've done everything we can.
Changes to the mine operator's licence have also been fast-tracked, requiring the mines to carry out risk assessments and fire management plans. A start date for the inquiry is yet to be set. Dougal Beattie, 9 News.
This is Win News.
Tonight, the Premier puts coal mine operators on notice. Good evening, I'm Bruce Roberts. Also tonight, a Lakes entrance shooter claims silver at the Australian Championships. Daniel Andrews insists his government's crackdown on Latrobe Valley mine operators will help to prevent a repeat of last year's Hazelwood mine fire. The Premier today announced new requirements around risk assessment and mine rehabilitation, but remains sketchy on further details.
With Victoria's fire chiefs watching on, Daniel Andrews arrived in the Latrobe Valley to announce new regulations imposed on coal mines that he believes pack a punch.
We're going to spend 2015 making sure that these sites are ready and have got plans to do everything they can to prevent fire, everything they can to mitigate fire, and everything they can to fight fire if one breaks out.
Mine operators will be required to present a detailed risk assessment and fire plan as part of their licence before next summer. The government is also demanding a regular progress report on coal mine rehabilitation.
They will be required to do that annually to government, which will then be made publicly available.
And if anyone doesn't comply with this regime, any mine operator, well, they do face penalties ranging from being breached and having to stop work at the mine, right through to substantial financial penalties, fines, and ultimately losing their licence.
The state will leave many of the details of its new regime up to a reopened Hazelwood mine fire inquiry, but it says the size of financial bonds paid by operators will be reviewed.
The community needs to feel confident that the progressive rehabilitation of all mines, coal mines in Victoria, is adequate and meets community expectations, and that the bonds reflect those community expectations.
Meanwhile, Latrobe Valley residents didn't miss the chance to grill the Premier.
People outside of Morwell aren't really aware why they're suffering these symptoms still,
I think that's a very good
and we
point.
need to start letting them be aware that it's okay to accept that Latrobe Valley was affected, not just Morwell. We need to see what has been promised today put clearly into the media so we can actually be confident that our health isn't going to be impacted again.
Tom Kelly, Win News.
Victoria toughens coal mine regulations to prevent another mine fire in the Latrobe Valley. The state government is fast-tracking tougher regulations on the Latrobe Valley coal industry to prevent a repeat of last year's Hazelwood mine fire. Coal companies will have to adopt clear fire management plans within months. If they don't, they risk hefty fines or losing their mining licence altogether. Frances Bell reports.
The Hazelwood mine fire began almost 12 months ago, but its effects are still keenly felt by the Latrobe Valley community.
People have been quite anxious as the fire season has come up, and we know whenever there's a little flare-up, people are a little bit panicky.
To prevent a similar disaster, the new government is fast-tracking its predecessor's commitment to impose tougher conditions on operating licences for the Hazelwood, Yallourn and Loy Yang coal mines. They'll each be required to do a risk assessment of the likelihood of a fire and implement a clear fire management plan. They've also committed to annually report on the progress of mine rehabilitation works. Failure to comply will attract a fine of up to $360,000 or ultimately the loss of the mining licence.
I don't think it'll come to that though, because we've made a good, strong, collaborative start on this, but it has to have teeth, and it does.
The government is yet to reveal the timing and details of its pledge to reopen the Hazelwood mine fire inquiry, which reported to Parliament last September. It'll be asked to examine reports of a spike in deaths in the region at the time of the fire.
We would actually like to see them set a date for when this inquiry is going to open.
The Premier says the government is still in talks with the Hazelwood mine operator, GDF Suez, over its contribution to the cost of fighting the mine fire, which came in at more than $100 million. The Emergency Services Commissioner says new equipment and improved surveillance has ensured the region is better prepared this season to deal with any fire threat to coal mines. Frances Bell, ABC News in the Latrobe Valley.
Tough new regulations have been imposed on mines in the Latrobe Valley to avoid a repeat of the Hazelwood disaster. They'll now be required to manage their own fire risk. But victims of last year's blaze say much more needs to be done.
Kerry Ann Clissold has little doubt her husband Harry's death was a result of the Hazelwood mine fire.
It's his birthday on Sunday, so it's going to be a bit tough. And I think someone's got to answer for it.
The blaze began in February last year and choked the Latrobe Valley for well over a month. Kerry Ann remembers the violent headaches they both suffered.
He was so sick and so ill, and he just said, this is going to kill us.
Harry died from a brain aneurysm last September. Following an inquiry into the disaster, the government has announced tough new regulations for the 3 coal mines in the area. Operators must now submit fire risk assessments and management plans to the government.
We're going to shine a light on this. We're going to make sure that it's done with rigour and that it's done properly.
The Latrobe Valley Community Group says today's announcement is a step in the right direction. However, it will continue pressuring the government to honour its election commitment to reopen the mine fire inquiry.
We would actually like to see them set a date for when this inquiry is going to open.
The reopening of the inquiry would allow for the investigation of health issues in the area, like that of Kerry Ann's late husband.
I think he'd be pleased for everybody else. It's too late for him, but for everybody else, I think he'd be really pleased. I know I am.
Emily Angwin, 7 News.
Thank you, Emma. The state government has announced steps to prevent a repeat of last year's Hazelwood coal mine fire. Last February's blaze blanketed the region with smoke and ash, prompting health warnings and a major inquiry. The state government has announced a series of fast-tracked rules for all 3 mines in the Latrobe Valley, including risk assessments and fire management plans.
That will mean if there is a future mine fire, we're much better able to manage that incident.
The immediate changes are being made